Today I'm going to show you why you should be overcooking your brisket on purpose. The first thing we want to do today is fill up our charcoal basket in our Weber Smoky Mountain around 3/4 of the way. Recently, I've been using this fire starter in order to start my drums, and I found that it works really well for our Weber Smoky Mountain as well. I'll put a link in the description if anybody is interested in it. It's actually made for weeds, but it works really well on drums and Weber Smoky Mountains. One of the things you guys will notice is I have all of the vents on the bottom open. A lot of the times I only use one and I try and make the airflow go towards one direction. But today we want this to get a little bit hotter. I'll show you why in just a little bit. Now my goal when I use this fire starter is to get about the size of a softball in my lump charcoal. And then I'm just gonna put my barrel right on top. And for this recipe today, we're gonna be using our Weber Dutch oven. What I wanna do is get the top rack off, and then I wanna put my Dutch oven right over the hot fire. And the reason that I wanna put it here is I want this to come up to temp and preheat while we're getting everything ready inside. For our braised brisket today, we need to chop up some vegetables. Today I'm gonna be using my Nakano Santoku Japanese handmade knife. Just gonna get a rough chop on these veggies. We're gonna be using tomato. If anybody is interested in trying this knife out, I'm gonna put a link in my description. There's a code for up to 30% off of this here knife. We're also gonna be chopping up a white onion. Today for our braised brisket, we're gonna be using pieces of brisket. I went to the store to try and find a nice brisket for this video and unfortunately couldn't find anything. So we're just gonna work with what we got, and also this turned out to be a great price, $20 here on this piece of brisket. And if you look here for a select piece of meat, not bad marbling at all. So I'm gonna go ahead and take one more cut. And I have 4 nice pieces here. So this is a mixture of point and flat. And over here, I have just point. So these are pretty much like burnt ends. You can see there's some pretty good marbling on a couple of these, and that's gonna make for a great mixture. Now it's time to season our brisket up. We're gonna start with a base layer of that base. Make sure to get every single side. Use what's on the board as well. Salt, pepper, garlic, a lot of great flavor here on that base. And now to get some texture on our brisket, we're gonna go over it with Killer Hog's TX Rub. I'm gonna show you guys here in just a second how we're gonna lock that flavor in, but make sure to season all sides. A nice coarse rub here. There's gonna be a link in the description for both of these. Now, by all means, make this recipe exactly the way you want to. If you want to add any more vegetables than we did today, that's going to be perfect, but this is always the way Mom made it, so I'm not going to change it. After preparing inside in around 25 minutes, we're going to go ahead and start searing our meat on our Dutch oven. So the reason that I left all the vents on the bottom open was so we can get this Dutch oven nice and hot. I want to get every individual piece, and I want to make sure that I'm getting some sear action. And just so this fire doesn't get out of control, I'm gonna go ahead and put the lid on, but let the crust build for around 2 minutes. After around 2 minutes of searing, we wanna check and see what we've got. And that's looking pretty good, so we're just gonna go ahead and flip this over, and we're gonna start building crust on every single side. One of the reasons that we originally started it on the cast iron is just so we could build up a little bit of this stuff on the bottom. That's called fond, and we're gonna go ahead and release all those flavors with a liquid here in just a minute. Okay, now that we have a nice crust on our brisket, we're gonna go ahead and take everything out for just a second. And we're gonna go directly in with our onions and our tomatoes. We're gonna go ahead and mix this around just for a few seconds. Now I'm gonna go in with 3 cans of beef consomme. And what we're looking to do now is actually scrape the bottom of this pan a little bit. Don't forget that fond that we built up at the bottom of our Dutch oven. We want to incorporate that into our mixture. Last but not least, we're gonna put in a cup of Killer Hogs the barbecue sauce. Give everything a mix one more time. And now we're gonna start adding our brisket right back inside. Now it's best to have a partner. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna carefully, I have some hot gloves on, I'm gonna carefully lift this Dutch oven, and we're gonna carefully put this on the top rack. From here, I'm gonna go ahead and close everything up and completely close the lid. Now at this point, I wanna control this fire just a little bit, so I'm gonna kill 2 of my bottom vents. At this point of the cook, we've done everything that we basically need to do. Now it's just time to be patient. We're gonna let this rock and roll for around 4 hours. It doesn't matter what the temp in the smoker is. It's gonna be around 300, 325. That's completely okay with me. Of course, you can do this in your oven, on your stove, but we prefer to be outside. That's why we're using the Weber Smoky Mountain. An hour and a half later, it's time to take a look at our braised brisket. At this point, the smell is already absolutely incredible. You can tell we're not done yet. Basically, if we were done, I would be able to squish this and this would all be falling apart. That's pretty much part of the braising process, but I'm just gonna go ahead and kind of move things around a little bit because I'm already in here. And at this point of the cook, it's still looking to take at least a few hours in order to get everything broken down and completely tender. That's okay. Like I told you guys earlier, you can absolutely do this in an oven, but we're just gonna maintain temps. If we need to add more charcoal later, we will, but the Weber Smoky Mountain usually runs like a dream. We're not gonna need any at all today. It's been about 4 hours on our braised brisket, and just from here, it does seem like everything is breaking down really nice. So this is what I basically want to be seeing, is I want the brisket to start just shredding apart as soon as I go after it. So we're just going to go ahead and shred all of these pieces up, and we just want this to sit inside of this juice for around 30 minutes or so, just to make sure that everything gets a nice coating of all of this deliciousness. Also, at this point of the cook, I'm trying to make sure that if there's any fat still on the meat, I'm not putting it back in when I'm shredding it. And after just a few minutes of getting everything nice and shredded, you can see that all of our meat is just extremely tender and mixing right in. So like I said, we're gonna let this sit for around 30 minutes just to absorb all those juices, and then it's time to eat. 30 minutes later, our braised brisket is completely done. At this point, this is exactly what we're looking for. The brisket is completely shredded apart. Everything is completely covered in all those beautiful juices. Now, of course, it's time to try. And around 5 hours later, our brisket is finally done. Can't believe we actually cooked this in a Dutch oven, but from here on out, you're gonna wanna do it. Best way to eat it is just to dig right in. You can see that it is completely tender. Everything looks super juicy, super moist. And of course, let's take a bite. This is literally a dish that I've asked my mom to make me for my birthday on multiple occasions. Again, you're gonna wanna overcook your brisket on purpose from here on out. Well, every once in a while. As always, we really appreciate you guys tuning into this video. Thanks. Penny, Piper, Alonso, Mom and Dad, we'll always love you. We'll see you on the next one.